So if you're here with us, welcome to the ReadySetCoteach presentation on 7 strategies for increasing engagement in virtual learning. We are so excited you're here, whether you're watching it live now with us or the replay. Thank you for being here. We are Allison, John, and Ashley. I'm Allison.
I'm John.
I'm Ashley.
And we are ReadySetCoteach, a co-teaching team from Raleigh, North Carolina. We've been together for 5 years and counting. And you can find us at our blog at www.readysetcoteach.com and also on Twitter at ReadySetCoteach. So thanks for joining us. We hope you've had an excellent time at Virtual so far this morning. We only have 20 minutes and we talk a lot, so we probably should jump right in. All right.
I do want to say at any point, if you guys have any questions, you want to respond to things, go ahead and type into the chat. I'm doing my best to keep an eye on that. So let's stay in touch.
Okay, so first things first, we do have a giveaway, and not only is this book, Math for L's, an awesome book, but it's also the next book for the hashtag ELL chat book club, and that is with Katie Topple. So if you want to get more information about that, then you can find her on Twitter. If you tweet us today with any takeaways, we're going to insert your name into a drawing, and we will announce the winner on Monday at 5 p.m. So even if you're watching the recording, you still could have a chance to win.
Yes. All right, so these are our 7 strategies for keeping students engaged and participating in virtual learning. They are culture, structure, communication, ownership, interaction, celebration, and feedback. As you will notice, a lot of these might be already familiar to you. You've probably done them in the brick and mortar classroom, but now we're going to take them online.
Okay, so first up, culture. Our L's need to feel safe and comfortable in order for them to perform at their highest potential. We want to ensure that our virtual classroom is just as warm and inviting and engaging as our actual brick and mortar classroom. The question is, how do we accomplish this? Okay, so we went on a search on how to overcome our 4 biggest concerns about online learning. That is confusion, isolation, lack of teacher presence, and lack of structure. Here's some of the things that, some of the solutions that we found to each of those challenges. So first of all, the virtual world is new for a lot of students, not just L's. However, the confusion can be heightened for our L's due to language. The practice of using gestures and high quality visuals can and should continue when we are explicitly teaching online learning skills and our very own expectations for that online classroom. We also make it a point to translate these and share them with parents and families into their L1, and that can help thwart any confusion due to language barriers. Additionally, we have had success creating and sharing how-to videos with families and translations for those as well, if possible. And we do those for navigating online programs and platforms that we will be utilizing or the students will be utilizing. So currently, Ashley, Allison, and I are teaching a summer learning camp, and already just this summer, we have had so much success creating, making, and sharing those YouTube videos. And if you do it on YouTube, you can get the link and you can send it as just a quick text message to the parents so they can view it on their phone. Another challenging aspect of online learning, especially for our L's, is isolation. According to Color in Colorado, peer interaction is an extremely valuable resource in helping English language learners succeed. One of our main strategies when building our co-taught classrooms is building our classroom rosters. And when we build our classroom rosters, we are sure to include strong language models as well as peers with the same L1. These peers, whether the models or the same L1 peers, they can help build confidence and also act as other language models and give opportunities for that student interaction to occur. So how do we facilitate student interaction virtually? We'll get to that one a little later on. Okay, so co-creating our expectations. When we co-create our expectations, we provide much needed structure to our virtual classrooms. Just like when we co-create learning agreements in our brick and mortar classrooms, we can do the same establishing and or co-creating a class virtual learning agreement. Soliciting student voice and input can create ownership and engagement. And as we mentioned previously before, these examples here are both in English and in Spanish. It is important to have that accessibility ready for the students. And these expectations are powerful because they provide structure for kids to know how and when it is appropriate to interact, and structure and provide them a structure to use when it is their turn to interact.
So to kind of reiterate everything that John said, there are some ways that you can overcome these barriers in the virtual setting. Keep as many of your routines that you would normally have in your classroom as possible. So as we're going into a new year, establishing the same routines that you would need to establish in the classroom and the additional ones that you would need to establish in the virtual classroom. Keep your schedule as consistent as possible. Meet at the same time every day, especially if you have students who have multiple classes on their schedule. This is going to be an important thing to kind of keep their brains on the right page every single day. Consider creating logistics videos. Like he was saying, we translate our videos into the students' L1 so that they, especially the younger parents, the parents know what's going on. But starting out in a new year, maybe create a welcome video just explaining who you are and a little bit about your class, and then just how to navigate all the different platforms that you're going to be using. Establishing guidelines for live learning, such as teaching kids to mute their microphones, get into the chat box. As an example, I had students who struggled the other day because I said, click the link in the chat. And I assumed that she knew what I meant by going into the chat and clicking a link, but she was a new student to me, so she didn't feel comfortable telling me that she didn't understand. So a parent actually came to me and brought it to my attention that she was just like pretending to do it. So just make sure that in order to avoid these instances, if you just go ahead and give clear directions up front and assume that they don't know it, that's going to help you. And then provide your directions often and in various ways. So if a teacher is not right there, it's always good to include audio directions, video directions, and we do have some videos of how to do that on our blog. And then we like to keep morning meetings so that you can start your day with an opportunity to build the classroom culture, but also handle any confusion or any questions that parents or students might have.
But most importantly, online teaching can and should be culturally responsive. Okay, so we all know how important it is, especially our friend and fellow North Carolinian, Emily Francis, always says, make sure your students can see themselves in whatever lesson or text that you're doing or the activity. So it is important to keep this in mind during online teaching. Now more than ever, we need to really know our kids because we're not physically with them. So we need to get to know them to know how to engage them. What are some simple ways to do this? We already said, know your students, okay? Try writing down 3 things about each student that you know that has nothing to do with academics. See how you do, because maybe you need to make a little more effort to get to know some of those other students. Create collaborative learner-centered lessons, whether that's using Flipgrid. We love using Flipgrid. Justin's amazing presentation this morning on Flipgrid is a must-watch. And we also like to use Jamboard. Give students choice whenever you can. Choice is engaging, okay? It also gives them a little more ownership. And then obviously we want to differentiate and support just like we would in our brick and mortar classroom.
All right, so communication, that brings us to number 3. Communication is always important, even in the brick and mortar classroom, but it's also can always be a challenge. So even more so in the virtual world, we have to extend different ways to reach our students, especially because families and students can get lost in online learning. So we have to ensure that we're bringing them back as easily as possible.
Yeah, if they're lost, they can't engage. So we put this in as a funny, okay? Because we read this and I thought of myself as a teacher and I thought, oh my gosh, when they threw us into online learning, I felt like this. I'm like, John, Ashley, technology, help, right? And it all seemed like another language to me. Now imagine if you were a family member and a parent, a caregiver, whatever, and that you don't speak the language. How much more exponentially difficult is it going to be?
All right, so there's some things that we can do. Number one, communicate constantly, consistently, and through multiple avenues. So by communicate through multiple avenues, we mean email, text, dojo, talking points, remind, phone calls, maybe showing up and do a socially distant house call if that is what your student needs to be engaged in online learning. Hopefully, after the first few weeks, you'll start to learn your parents and your students and the best way that they're going to respond, so you could use one thing more consistently. But at the beginning, if you're not getting responses by phone calls, then go to a different app or resource. Communicating constantly and consistently means that at the beginning of the year, you might lay out all of your guidelines, but then consider sending out reminders. So maybe post an update every morning that says, you know, this is the expectation, don't forget. Maybe every day in your morning meetings, kind of going over your expectations, just like you would your rules in the classroom. For routine communication, we like to use talking points. And something that we've found for summer school is if you schedule a meeting to go out a message to go out 5 minutes before your class meeting, and it will just send a quick text that says, just a simple sentence, "I can't wait to see your child in 5 minutes." So it's a lot harder for them to forget or be late if their parents are getting this text that says they need to be on. And maybe if you have older students, if you had another system where it maybe emailed them, or I'm not totally sure how you communicate with the students directly if they're home alone, but I'm sure that there's another system that you could use.
I'm guessing that probably the older students have their own cell phones, so you could add them in as talking points instead of necessarily just their parents like we do for elementary.
Yeah, I honestly have never taught older parents. I wasn't sure on like policies, but just make sure that you know those policies.
Yes.
Utilizing your office hours, not just for students, but for families. So invite parents to ask questions during your office hours and make times that are available to be available when the parents are more available. And then just a note for translation and interpretation. Sometimes communicating with our EL families may require some more language assistance. So reach out to your district, and if they have a service, use it. If you need assistance with a language not offered through available professional services, then think outside the box. Maybe there's another app that you could use. Maybe there's another family that would help to translate. And another, one warning though on this, just make sure that you check with your admin first so that there's no confidentiality issues with reaching out to outside people. But then advocating for ELS, the Facebook by Valentina Gonzalez, has been excellent, and we have seen other people that just post, "Hey, is there anyone that can translate this?" And they're very responsive and helpful. So if you aren't on that Facebook group, maybe check it out.
Okay, so student ownership, moving on, student ownership of learning occurs when students can monitor their own progress and reflect on their learning. We know that getting buy-in from students is a key piece of the first few weeks of school, and it encourages them to engage more deeply in their learning. So how do we cultivate student ownership virtually? Okay. So here are some simple ways that we can foster student ownership in online learning. We want students to feel like it is their classroom, their community, and that they have a say within their own learning. Consider using student-friendly rubrics and having students score themselves and edit their assignments before turning their work in. All three of us are currently teaching, again, online in our summer learning program, and approximately half of the students that I'm currently servicing were ones taught by Allison and I in the previous school year. These students felt so comfortable in this online setting and with me as their teacher that they pushed me to actually reintroduce our morning meeting so that way they can reconnect and share their lives with each other. If you provide the opportunity for that student ownership, students are absolutely going to take advantage and work for that ownership.
Okay, interaction. As John mentioned earlier, we're going to get to interaction now. So a common misconception about online learning is that students sit in front of their computers, right? They just sit, and if you picture online learning in your head, or if you Google online learning and you look at the images, it's mostly students just sitting in front of a computer, okay? This does not have to be the case and should not be the case, especially for engaging our English learners. So There are a plethora of interactive apps and tools out there, to the point where I think that teachers are getting a little bit overwhelmed, or can be. I know I am. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many tools to choose from, right? We're here to tell you the tool does not matter. The app does not matter, okay? So many interaction strategies from the face-to-face classroom will also work in your virtual classroom, all right? But there are some additional things we can do to keep the students actively learning. First of all, focus on how the tools can best support your teaching and learning goals, okay, rather than the tools themselves. If you want the students to retell a story orally using a paragraph frame, okay, it does not matter if they videotape themselves on FaceTime and upload it to your Google Classroom, or they go to Flipgrid and do it, right? The tool doesn't matter. Focus on the learning goals and the teaching, all right? Keep in mind, it's best not to introduce too many tools. I don't know if y'all felt it, but I felt it when we first started online teaching. They were just throwing tools at us. Try this, resources. The kids will feel the same way, okay? We don't want them to spend their time learning how to use all of these apps. We want them to spend their time engaging with the language and content, okay? So just keep that in mind. You want to keep students actively typing, or talking throughout your lesson. This is no different than what we want to do in our brick and mortar classroom. It just looks a little different structurally, virtually. So here are some quick interaction strategies that you can use for that. We had a blast with some virtual scavenger hunts this past year. We had something I do in the summer learning is the kids, instead of just shouting out or raising their hand, because sometimes I don't always catch it, is they buzz in by saying their name. So I might ask a question or have something to do, and the kids know, they say Jefferson when Jefferson's ready to answer, or they will say Ashley. And so that way they kind of buzz in and I can do it that way. That's worked really well for me. So the rule that you want to follow is you want to have students interacting either with each other or reflecting or doing something, physically doing something, whether typing, talking, or clicking every 3 minutes. Okay, so we want to chunk that learning. Obviously, Marzano talked about chunking years ago, right? We all know that that's an important scaffold for our English learners. So the way you want to chunk it is every 3 minutes, students should be doing some sort of interaction, whether it's answering a poll or doing something else. And the last thing is, keep in mind that non-task interactions are just as important as task-based interactions. So what does that mean? It means that the interactions that you're not grading or the interactions that you're not using as formative assessment are just as important. For example, at 1 o'clock every day, John would just get on the computer and play video games with the kids. And he'd be like, I'm going to be on from 1 to 1:30. We're going to play video games. It has nothing to do with academics, right? But I just want to, it's about getting them together, feeling connected. If they're together, feeling connected, you're much more likely to get them engaged in their learning every day.
Yeah, so just like she's saying with John doing the video games, you have to really think outside the box to celebrate students in the virtual world. But just like face-to-face, students need positive reinforcement, and maybe even more so because it's so much easier to just disengage and put your brain on something else. So we like to try to build in ways to celebrate both success and effort. And visuals help. I did see recently on Twitter that there's a research like actually putting a physical thing, like holding a star in front of your camera and saying the student's name will help the student to internalize that positive reinforcement. So there's little things like that that you can do. And then we also use weekly awards. So we're celebrating their effort in the amount of time that they are spending on our different platforms for virtual learning. And then we've also chosen students' work and then just shared the actual work in morning meetings and just to show what a great example of good work looks like. And it just gives students the motivation to put their best foot forward every week and do their very best, because it's a lot harder in the virtual world for them to feel like, their work is being seen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so finally, feedback. So providing feedback to students about their performance is extremely important in the effort to keep students engaged in their learning journey. But providing feedback is often really difficult during the school year. I know personally there's way too often I have that stack of grading in my classroom, and that difficulty has been exacerbated by the students' ability to sometimes just close their laptops and walk away from it. So how do we provide that feedback? So first, we establish and communicate explicit goals to the students and tie the student activities and progress back to those goals. For instance, it was mentioned how I at times would play video games with my kids. That was a specific goal, and there was a specific criteria that students had to meet in order to earn that goal. As a teacher, we also provided quick responses to students' posts and questions that can help keep students on track for the next assignment or activity. And we tried our best to have a fast turnaround time on grading the assessments. So that way that would have a future impact on their next work, their next assignment that they had to work on. One of the biggest things that we found was focusing on qualitative descriptors over quantitative grades. Students, especially in this remote setting, they don't really have a context for what a numerical grade might mean to them. But seeing your words and your specific feedback about specific qualitative points of their work is much more impactful for the kids. And also, here's a quick tip. If you are using Google Classroom, make sure that you take advantage of their comment bank feature. That allows teachers to create a series of comments before reviewing assignments, and then you just click and add those comments to the student work directly, quickly, and easily. That's a huge win for us for providing meaningful feedback, because it means that you can write a thoughtful comment once and add it to the student's assignments over and over and over again, instead of having to type it out each time like I used to do personally.
And as language teachers, a lot of you are probably bouncing from class to class, and you have students in multiple classes. So this is an excellent tool for you to check out. We'll tweet the link to this presentation so you'll have it. And all of these are clickable links that you can learn more on. All right, so that is our quick and fast 7 strategies for increasing engagement in virtual learning. We hope that you got something out of this. Hopefully we can all work together to keep all students engaged and participating in virtual learning. If you have other ideas, we'd love to hear them. We learn from you just as much. So now we're gonna go ahead and move into the Q&A here. I put a 5-minute timer on, but we actually have 8 minutes. Guys, we did a good job.
I'm so proud of us.
I know.
We didn't overtalk.
If you have any questions for us, feel free to go ahead and type them in to the chat there on YouTube, and we will do our best to answer them.
So I'm going to go ahead, because I've been, as you may have noticed during the presentation, I've been looking down, and I actually pulled a couple so far. First 2 actually come from the same person, Leela Sammy, and I hope I'm pronouncing names right. I apologize if I don't. First question is, my kids all came in at different times. She's works with 3rd grade. How can we do morning meeting in this context, in this situation?
So the morning meetings are for us, they were very much like a foundation for our day, where it was so important that kids came to those morning meetings. That we would set reminders and send them out. We would encourage kids to come. If kids did not come, we would text them and say, hey, where were you? Do you need to meet with us? Because we need to explain what we learned today and what your independent work is. So that can be really difficult, because not every student lives in a household that's available at the same time to do online learning. So something some teachers were offering were morning and afternoon meetings, and the kids could pick one. So like, I'm gonna do a 9 o'clock morning meeting, and we're also gonna do one at 1 o'clock. And then so the students could then pick what's most convenient for them. That's just one idea. Do you guys have other ideas?
No, but I do think that 5-minute, the message that goes out 5 minutes before the meeting helps kids to all actually get on at the same time. Because even in my lessons, sometimes before that, I was having people that got on time, and then 10 minutes later, and I'm like trying to go back, and it gets really overwhelming as a teacher to try to fill in the gap when the student got on late. So that might help too.
Right. Any
Okay.
other questions, John?
Yeah. Next up from, again, Leela. So how do we co-create expectations during a Zoom meet? And I do want to preface that we actually don't, our district doesn't use Zoom. We use Google Meet because it ties directly into our Google Classrooms. But if one of you guys want to respond to that.
So one idea is using the whiteboard on Zoom. You could pull up your whiteboard, and then as kids give you ideas, or you guys are co-creating them, you can write them on the whiteboard, and then what you can do is take a picture of it and later on like make it look nice, right? We often do that with anchor charts. We make them with the kids, and then we take them later and make them nice and then have them posted. Ashley and I know are using a Google Meet etiquette document for our summer learning, and that was co-created with the kids, but then I took it and made it like look cute, and it's on every single one of our slides for teaching in summer learning. Any other ideas?
Well, I was just going to say, in some of this stuff, the kids don't even know that it needs to be an expectation, so you really kind of have to plan it in their brain, like
For the little ones. For
it's
sure.
brand new to students, virtual learning,
So we have a few more, and I'm actually going to jump to the last one on my list right now, the most recent one that popped up on my screen, because it ties into that last thing we were talking about. Jill Cormier asked, how do we send those reminders? Do we use Remind, email, something else? Do you have a separate phone number for that? So how do you, for your classrooms?
I think all of the above. You could use any of it. Ashley, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, but honestly, Talking Points has been a game changer for me, because you can go in there, you can make different groups. So like I have my students all enlisted as one class, and then I've got them chunked into different groups. So then their messages go out at different times, and it translates into so many languages. It's like, I used to be only Team Dojo, but now I'm kind of on Talking Points. So
yeah, I love that I can make separate groups. You can do like an 8 o'clock group, a 9 o'clock group, a 10 o'clock group, and then you can 5 minutes before 8 o'clock, it sends it to the 8 o'clock group. Exactly. 5 minutes before your 9 o'clock group, it's a great app.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next up from Chiquita Tucker. This one was a while back, and it did get a response from it. But how do you create a virtual scavenger hunt?
Oh, yay. Okay. Ashley, do you want to talk about it? Because you did one with the first graders.
So you can do two different types. So first of all, you can have a scavenger hunt where it's like for a team building, where you're just naming items and then the students are going to find them. I did that for an end of the year celebration, and you can do that as a celebration. But there's also a different type of virtual scavenger hunt where you might have a page of links, and if you look them up, they're called online escape rooms or virtual escape rooms, where kids have to like go to different websites and find the answer to something and then come back and type it in the chat box. So honestly, if you just look up virtual escape rooms, you'll find a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the one that's just for like fun, you would just literally put up an item and then the kids run back with it, like a toothbrush. And then they
so you would say like, you would have a slide and it would say, it would have a picture of a toothbrush and it would say toothbrush. And you would say your go word, which might be pineapple. And when you say pineapple, all the kids can run, grab their toothbrush and come back and show it in the screen. And you keep kind of a tab of points, right?
So
it's fun.
It is 12:58, about to be 12:59. We've got a lot more questions that have not yet responded to. So I think we should lightning round this and try to give fast responses. And I do want to give
you can always stay on if you guys have extra questions. Okay. But please keep in mind that the next session will continue. So if you don't answers to it, we definitely want you to be able to
experience
all that Virtual has to offer.
Yes. And this presentation is recorded and will be posted online for you to check again. Yes. And I do want to give a shout out to Dee Camarena for also responding to that virtual scavenger hunt, saying that Caitlin Tucker has a great template if you want to look up her specifically for that virtual.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Don't forget to tweet so you can be entered into the drawing.
Oh, yes.
You're on there.
Next, Matilda Campusmana says, you have to be careful about the activity to choose between every group and make sure that every group has a different assignment. And I'll respond to this one. And I actually heard this in a Google Classroom Facebook group, that some teachers, in order to kind of prevent cheating and maybe even to provide an opportunity for a culturally responsive activity is they make a Google form, and the very first question, based off of your answer for that question, it leads you to a separate quiz or a separate activity or assignment based off of that first initial question. So you can try to preempt and provide that opportunity for a bit more responsive, or if you're worried about, the fidelity of your assessments, you could handle it that way.
Yeah.
Next one is, I'm going to jump to, again, another one by Leela Sammy. How did you make the winner circle template? And
easy. Yeah. I just did it on the Google Slides app. What is that called, an app?
Yeah.
On your Chromebook, right? You did it on your Chromebook, yeah?
Yeah, but I just went into Google Slides and I made everything there. And then each, like I went into each website and I did a snippet. I took a snippet of like the picture of the website, and then I put the number of minutes that the students were on. But you can put whatever you want in.
Yeah.
At the end of the week and post the picture is what we did. Yeah. So they're not getting your actual slideshow. They're just getting a picture of it, like a screenshot.
Right. You turn the slide into a picture and post it. And we had kids. It was so funny. We would have our students commenting. You know how they can comment on your Google Stream? So Ashley would post that on, I believe, did we do it on Fridays?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was either Friday or Monday, depending on how long we had.
So we would post it and kids would comment under it. Oh, yeah. Or like, oh, look, I'm going to beat Ian next time. Or like, oh, look, I've been on this long. Like, they loved it. And it took, 5 minutes a week to make it.
It doesn't take long at all.
Yeah.
So, and I do also want to point out that someone did respond to that as well and say that there are actually YouTube videos, tutorials on how to go over that as well, if you're still feeling uncertain based off of that. Yeah. Next one, Kathy Shercliffe says, what's the best source to learn about Google Classroom?
Okay, so here's the thing. Right now, you've got a lot of different leaders making YouTube videos and tutorials and this. So honestly, the best thing that I did when I was learning Google Classroom, was that I made a fake classroom and I played with it. Like I would post things to it, like do different activities and try to stream them in there. And then I would do this and I would play with it myself in a fake classroom that I created. It's like, I think I called it like testing 1, 2, 3 classroom or something. And so anytime I was not sure how Google Classroom was going to react to whatever I was doing, I would do it in my testing one first, just to see. That's a great way. But then also, obviously, there are a bunch of great tutorials on YouTube.
Honestly, I spent a week just watching YouTube stuff at the beginning when we first delved into it.
Right.
So
honestly, even today with setting up this YouTube stream, I spent a lot of time doing the exact same thing. There's a lot of great tutorials out there.
Yeah.
Another question I'll respond to, Victoria Hang asked, what type of games did I play with my students when I mentioned gaming with them? So I really defaulted mainly to 2 games, but really just Minecraft most of the time. It allowed me
because Minecraft is life. If you didn't know, Minecraft is life.
Yeah. Well, Minecraft has done such amazing things where it allows you, the person who is in charge of the realm, which is what they call the shared world that you play in. It allowed me to have that administrative control over it that you want to have for Google Classroom or any sort of thing. And I did try playing some Roblox with some of my kids, and I felt like the format of it wasn't always user-friendly, and I had a lot more success with Minecraft and kind of created that collaborative feel where we were creating and surviving in a world together. And it was a lot of fun.
I think this is a great topic, and John, I think it would be a great thing for you maybe to do a video tutorial and a blog or something on like how to use Minecraft with the kids or how you did it administratively. Because I think that is honestly, that was something that the kids look forward to every day. They were engaged in class because John would say, don't forget, get your work done because at 1 o'clock we're playing video games, right? And I mean, it was very, very motivating.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And even now during the summer learning, a couple of the kids have said to me, Mr. Cox, can we log into Minecraft? It's been a while. And I was like, well, no, that was in a school year thing, maybe at some point. But they seek that ownership.
And those non-task interactions, they're just as important, you guys, because that's going to be where you're going to build that relationship and really get to know your kids.
Okay. We had a specific question from Richard Wade about using Canvas with younger grades and beginning EL students. I don't specifically have a lot of experience with Canvas, and
can you read the question again, John? I'm sorry.
What any ideas for using Canvas with younger grades and beginning EL students?
So unfortunately, we are not Canvas experts because we use Google Classroom and we don't use, our county is Google Classroom and Google Meet are the two approved, and Seesaw, obviously, are the approved for the younger grades. So we don't have any experience with Canvas with kids, so we have to go ahead and default that. Maybe there is
anyone else out there that might need the help.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
There may be someone else out there that might be able to help.
Yeah.
There are a lot of YouTube videos and resources for you in case you wanted to use Canvas, but unfortunately, that's not our hat. Yeah. I did want to respond to it, even though I knew that was going to be our answer. Next one from Amy Calisti. Calisti. What advice do you have in increasing rigor and standards in online instruction? Sorry, now let me say that in. What advice, I butchered that, my apologies. What advice do you have in increasing rigor and in your standards-based instruction in an online format?
Okay, so I have a lot to say about this. We could probably do a whole presentation just on this. So I love that you asked about it, number one, because rigor is so important, right? Virtual teaching, just like in the brick and mortar classroom, kids need productive struggle, right? So we should not be making it so, just drag and drop everything. Now, drag and drop is wonderful, especially for younger kids, okay? But drag and drop might be a little bit too simple for some advanced students, right? So some of the things that we've done is we've made sure that the strategies we have used to keep the rigor from the curriculum, because we use a curriculum called EL Education. It's completely free if you want to check it out. We love it, but it is highly rigorous. And so we find ourselves actually having to scaffold more than extend. However, there are some students who we need to do extensions for. And with that, I guess to sum it up is don't underestimate your kids. Try it as rigorous as you can first. Then if you can, you will immediately see the misconceptions, the struggles. You'll see all of that. Then take it and adapt for that, put in those supports, do those things, but never take the rigor down, okay? You are always bringing the student up, not the rigor down.
Agreed. Agreed 1,000% with that. And I do want to give a shout out to our very good friend, Fred, Mojo Fred.
Hey, Fred, are you here?
Yeah, he was here. I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, but he did also throw out a suggestion for project-based learning. Was also a great tool that he's used in his online classroom.
Awesome.
I did see this. This question was actually posted twice, and I did want to respond to it. So Elvira Salazar asked if we had any problems with the workaround for breakout rooms in Google Meet, and if so, did we have any problems when kids returned to the main group? So in our teaching context, we previously worked with first and second grade classrooms. This next year, we're working with second and third grade classrooms. And in our model of teaching, including in the summer now for summer learning, we did not use breakout rooms that much in our instruction.
Well, it wasn't a thing yet. It just now became a thing.
It just recently.
So here's the situation with Google Meet too. It's got a lot of glitches.
Yes.
We were running into the situation that the grid view would stop working randomly. Yes. And that's how we stream, not stream, that's not the right word. What am I saying? We screen share the grid so that the kids can all see each other, right?
Right.
And so when that messed up, we were like, okay, what do we do? All we had to do was uninstall and then reinstall, and it worked fine. There was some update that had some glitch in it. So if your breakout rooms aren't working, that's the first
So
advice.
I think the question is more specifically tied to expectations and work that's being done in the breakout rooms.
I'm excited to try breakout rooms, and that is on my list of things for one of my blog posts or videos coming up. But I think one of the difficulties, and somebody else might have another idea, but one of my biggest difficulties about breakout rooms is probably going to be that you don't know what they did in there. I don't know. You might be able to see, but I don't know.
You can pop in and out to different breakout rooms and kind of check on kids, which is highly recommended. Here's the situation, to be honest. We have first and second graders, or we did last year. We're going to have second and third next year. So to be honest, we don't put first graders in breakout rooms for obvious reasons. They're not to that independent level yet, like that level of independency. Is that a word? Independency?
Level of independence.
So we honestly haven't, but like Ashley said, we are exploring, and all I can say about that is just make sure you have your expectations clear, your structure clear, and whatever they're supposed to do, that task is scaffolded to the point where they feel confident in completing it in their group together independently before you send them off.
So,
and what I was going to say is if you use it just for a quick turn and talk, then number one, like time it. And if you can go in and check, awesome. But then once they come out, use that second set partner strategy where they have to say what their partner said. Maybe you just count, call on a couple of them. That's kind of been what's bouncing around in my mind, because the accountability has to be there or turn and talks are not valuable.
Right.
So.
Agreed.
We'll work on that for you. We'll work on something.
And I guess in closing, I'll say when we attempt it with this next school year, with everything, we start small. We start with manageable expectations, and we explicitly teach those and build our way up to using the full breakout room functionality.
Yeah.
So last question that was posted. If anyone has any others, feel free to throw them into the chat. But Emily Kozik asked, can the kids see the whiteboard when you're working on Zoom?
Yes, they can. So if you're using Zoom, and this is a feature of Zoom that I absolutely adore, and I'm waiting for Google. They say they're doing it, so I'm waiting for Google to get it done. For Zoom, yes, you can. So what you do is when you're live on Zoom, you go down to the bottom, share screen, okay? One of the options that will pop up, when you hit share screen, you should get multiple options. It should say like your screen, whiteboard, what else is on there? I don't know, but there's several options. So when you click whiteboard and it pops up, the kids will see just a white screen, all right, with your face. And you can, whatever you write on there, whatever you do, they can see it. So I tutor separately from teaching in the public schools. So I use it all the time to tutor and to show like math problems, and then I'm hoping that soon we'll get a feature where the kids can use a whiteboard, but Jamboard actually functions as a whiteboard for students if you want to check that out.
Actually, just in the chat, Renee Blakeney just said that you could also use Jamboard as well.
If you want to write just yourself for kids to see, the Zoom whiteboard works just fine. If you want kids to be writing on whiteboards, you need to use Jamboard for now, because that's the only one I know that's at least that I've used that functions well for that.
So another question that just popped up in referring to the comment about project-based learning before, I believe that was more tied to a specific type of instruction rather than a specific app. I don't believe there is a project-based learning app. Is there, that either of you are aware?
Not that I'm aware of, but there are so many apps. So
yes, that's true. It's really hard to stay on top of them all.
Yeah.
Do you have any strategies for students who are I need a drink of water, but do we have any strategies for those students who are reluctant to appear on camera?
Don't make them.
I love that, Allison.
That's my honest answer. Don't make them.
Yeah.
Because here's the situation, guys. Virtually, as you see behind me, this is my house. Now, you can use virtual backgrounds to change this, right? But especially with younger kids, they may not necessarily know how to change their virtual background, and they may not want you to see their house. They may not want other kids to see. And the truth is I believe, and this is my own opinion, we should not force them. If they don't want to be as The only thing I tell kids who are not going to use video is you have to participate in some other way then. If you're not going to show me your face, I'm fine with hearing your voice. I'm fine with you typing in the chat box. I'm fine with all that, but you have to participate in some way.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
So whatever that is, that's comfortable for them. But I mean, that's my answer. What do you guys think?
No, I absolutely agree. And I've seen specific circumstances, and I don't want to reveal too much, but I've seen situations where students that we've taught have been uncomfortable in their home situation, and we're trying to work to find a quiet area or working to go outside so that the way they can use their computer in privacy, and didn't want to be surrounded by that distraction.
I had a kid in the bathtub the other day, you guys. Sitting in the bathtub with their laptop because that was the only place they could find that was quiet. And one of our expectations was find a quiet spot. That's our first one on our summer learning expectations. So this child took that seriously, went into the bathroom, sat in the tub, and had their computer because they said that their siblings were so loud.
That works.
And I had a student who couldn't find a quiet spot. So he used the chat function. I saw his face. I knew he was paying attention, and he just chatted in every answer. So just work with what they have, man.
Yeah.
Like everybody's in terrible situations.
Exactly. And you just sorry, Ashley.
No, I'm just saying it's hard. It's an adjustment, and for some, there's nothing that they can do to make the adjustment stop being an adjustment. It's not becoming the norm for them. So we just have to work with what we have.
Judith Aragon actually mentioned that Google Meet will have virtual backgrounds and blurring this fall. So that is something that we can start
then we can teach the kids how to do that.
Yeah.
And then that way you can ask them to please have their camera on.
And unfortunately, that was mentioned. It was mentioned that is those improvements are for paid customers, which luckily our district is a paid customer. So
okay. So I was like, oh,
we get to use those, but I do recognize that not everyone is getting to benefit from those.
Right.
And I guess it's important for us also to recognize that difference when we are giving this advice to teachers, that sometimes maybe certain resources aren't always available depending on the district you're working with.
Yes, absolutely.
So, all right, guys.
That's
all the questions. There's still a pretty good conversation happening in the chat.
Awesome.
I really, really appreciate the interaction that you guys have had. We had at one point, Allison and Ashley, over 250 concurrent watchers.
Wow, and you guys, that makes my heart so happy.
Yeah. We still have
so many great choices.
Yeah.
But the great thing is all of Virtual is recorded, guys. So if you found a session that you really wanted to share, you can share it with your colleagues, do whatever after the fact. And we really encourage you to go back and watch all of them because we got a great lineup. Like Tan and Carol Selva, they outdid themselves with this conference. So make sure you take advantage. And we want to thank you. And we hope that you will keep in touch with us. We love, love, love learning from you and with you. So we hope that we will see you soon. And Ashley, book giveaway, right?
Yeah, at 5 p.m. on Monday? Is that what we said? We're going to give people time to rewatch it.
Yes, and you can, someone asked this last time and I totally forgot to say it this time. You can tweet more than once for multiple entries. So each entry would be one tweet. Make sure you tag us and make sure you have the hashtag virtual.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you everyone so much for attending.
Yes.
Really appreciate it.
And now we're off to watch more of this conference.
Yes. All right. So the 94 of you that are still watching, all right, let's hit the ground running and let's head to another session. See you guys.
Let's do it. Let's go. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye.